it's welcome to another episode of Writer on the Road. I feel like I've been at this computer all night. I was interviewing last night and here I am bright and early, 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm interviewing again. Both my guests have been absolutely beautiful. Last night it was Julie Schooler. This morning I've got another beautiful, happy, bright, young writer, Valerie Francis from Newfoundland, an island off Canada. So good morning, Valerie.
Good evening, Melinda.
Yeah, they get the advantage on me. It's Saturday night over there. But I'm very
Yes.
excited to be talking to Valerie this evening, because she has a love of words that I just admire. My daughter and I play word games all the time, and I was reading Valerie's bio very quickly this morning because I forgot to wake up. And it's got some very, very interesting things about Valerie that I'm going to get her to share with us today. But first of all, if you'd like to introduce yourself, Valerie, because I'm going to have a drink of Milo.
Fair enough. I'm Valerie Francis. I'm a Canadian author living in the province of Newfoundland and Labrador, and I write children's fantasy fiction under my own name, and that series is Nature Nights. And as of tomorrow, I will also be publishing romantic suspense under my pen name, Robin St. Croix.
Yeah, now I looked very briefly last week at the romantic suspense novels, because we have a lot of romance readers and writers who listen in, and I thought, I'll just have a pop over there and have a listen. And then I had to send Valerie a bit of a Facebook message saying, "Oi, what kind of romance do you write?" Because the covers are magnificent, but they're a little bit explicit. And I know with romance that goes from one end of the spectrum to the other. Excuse me. But I also think your novels are tasteful. They're not into the erotic or anything, but the covers are absolutely beautiful. So it's not where I wanted to start, but while we're talking about it, who does your covers?
Well, it's just the one cover so far for my romantic suspense, and it's the two masks, and it's actually a woman in Phoenix, Arizona, who I met at a conference, and she's a graphic artist and doesn't really do a lot of cover work, but I knew exactly what I wanted, so she said, "Yeah, well, when you get back to your office, give me a call, and we'll see if we can come up with something." So Patty Knowles is her name, and she did this. She was so easy to work with, and she mocked this up, and I had it in a week, and so I'm really happy with it.
Yeah. Now, I'll do a bit of a blog post and I'll put some of the covers up that Valerie's got, because the other covers that are absolutely gorgeous, and I've dabbled a little bit in middle grade fiction, so I was pretty excited that, Valerie, that you do write middle grade fiction. I haven't had a children's author on before, so that's exciting. So we probably should focus on that to start with. Your nature series, or your Nature Night series, would you like to tell us a little bit about those books and the prequel that you've just released?
Yeah, the covers for the Nature Nights for the kids' books were done by a local artist, because I like to work with as many local people as I can. And her name is Elizabeth Barrington Matheson. And the prequel, which is called Defiant, is an illustrated book, and Elizabeth did the illustrations inside as well. So Nature Nights is the premise is that nature can fight back against the damage that we're doing to it. And I've got a couple of trailers on YouTube if anyone wants to have a look, or my website, valeriefrancis.ca. The trailers are there as well. And that's the premise. And there are the main protagonist is Clancy Donovan, and she is an elemental. She has the power of fire, and she meets 3 other people, and the 4 of them go on a quest to there's a mystery at the beginning of the book, and they don't know what's causing it. So they go on a quest to find a cure for this disease that has broken out.
Yeah, and you're a huge fan of Tolkien.
Yeah, can you tell?
And
yeah, I love fantasy fiction. I really, really do. Yes.
yeah, and I think that love of words, I love Tolkien simply because of the way he uses his words. He wrote his own language, and when you start to look into the life of this author, it is absolutely mind-blowing, and Lord of the Rings trilogy is only a very small part of what he has written. I think my daughter's reading, I think it's called Gilgamesh or Gilgamesh or Golgamesh or something.
Gilgamesh?
Yeah, and she's wading her way through that, and it's her new favourite book. I bought it for me, but I haven't been able to touch it in 2 years. But he was writing, I think, at the time of Tolkien, but Tolkien got so very, very big that Gilgamesh sort of got buried a little bit. But those guys, when you start looking at how they play with words, it is amazing. And the reason I'm bringing that up today is because Valerie is a lover of words, and there's been a couple of little discussions in her blog posts about the way that she uses words. Where did that passion come from?
That's a good question. I think it's probably my father, because he is just a natural born storyteller. And sometimes, you're never quite sure if he's telling you the truth or if it's sort of a stretch story. But he comes up with these names of characters and words and so forth. Oh, I've got a cat going across my screen. And um, it's just playing around with words and just having fun with words. And I have two kids, and when they were little, I just kind of naturally did it with them.
Yeah, and it's Valerie's a lady after my own heart. Being an English teacher by default, I've homeschooled my children and travelled all around the place in the caravan, and we love. Well, my eldest daughter and I love words. My youngest daughter throws books at us, but there is nothing better than being able to bend and twist the language to the way that it suits you. And what caught my eye, the very first thing, is the names of your characters. They're very, very interesting.
Yeah, well, of course, with the Harry Potter books coming out, J.K. Rowling has used all the Latin words. So just forget Latin, because no matter what you do, it sounds like it's a Harry Potter word to the readers, right? And so I was looking for something, some sort of a language that would capture the feeling of the world that I was creating. And here in Newfoundland, we've got a really heavy Irish culture, a very Celtic culture. And so I started to look at Gaelic, and the Irish Gaelic and the Scottish Gaelic, although I know the two are very different, but I fell in love with the sounds of the words. So the trick, of course, with Gaelic, for me anyway, is that it's very hard to read. What it looks like on the page is not what it sounds like. So I would go into different websites that I found, or I have some friends who have a familiarity with Gaelic anyway, and I would ask them to say certain words for me, and then I would write them down phonetically as best as I could, so that my reader, whenever, because it's primarily kids in grade 5 and 6 who are reading the Nature Night series. So when they come to a word they don't know, I mean, at that age, it doesn't bother them, because there's a lot of words they don't know. So they just kind of happily go along and give it a try. So if they try it, and just say it as, read it phonetically, they're pretty close on. And when I go in and do classroom visits, I say to them things like, well, the name Hermione Granger, no, I mean, nobody could say that. Outside, maybe in England, they might have known it, but certainly no one here in Canada knew Hermione, and in the States and so forth, until the movies came out. And then things like Hermione became standardized, Expecto Patronum, all this became standardized because we heard it on film. So until that happens, the book is really for the reader. It's an individual experience for the reader. So if like, for example, my capital city is Cadiz, Kadith. If someone says Cadiz and somebody else says Cadiz, well, who cares? Right? I mean, that's part of the joy of taking a book, a story, and making it your own. So I just really encourage the kids to have fun. And if they really want to know what I had in my mind when I was writing it, email me and I'll tell them.
Yeah.
you know.
And this is the beauty of writing for kids. They are so very accepting, they are so very creative. And I was really excited, like going back to teaching recently, that I thought, oh, wow, they've got the words creativity and imagination in the curriculum. So I thought, wow, kids will be able to extend themselves and do all these wonderful things. And it turned out not to be true at all, because when it comes to assessment and marking, we trash them. If they really extend themselves, they really, really push themselves and try something new and it fails, we don't say, wow, we can see what you've tried to do and it's fantastic, we're going to mark you up for it. We're going to say, gee, your grammar's off and your story doesn't make sense because it hasn't got a beginning, middle and end. There's a C minus. And I've just really rebelled against that. And hearing you talk the way you are and going in and having author visits, I know primary schools are a little bit more flexible than high schools, but I ended up building my own online writing course which we're about to launch, teenage novel story slingers or something. It's too early in the morning, but I'm about to launch that, and I'm mentioning that specifically here today because for everyone who's listening, Valerie has a young daughter who's writing or has written a novel, and she's got an interview up with another young novelist. Now these girls are about 10 or 11 or 12, and I desperately want them to speak to me and so that I can put them on my Story Slingers writing course. So Valerie, tell me about your daughter and her writing because I'm really interested, and hopefully I can get her onto my course.
Now, this was that interview that you're talking about. Again, it's up on YouTube. That was done when my daughter and her friend were in grade 5. They're now in grade 8, and it was part. I blinked, and suddenly they're teenagers. So that was done, and that was right around the time that my book was coming out, and Literacy Day was coming up. That's January 29th here in Canada. I don't know if it moves around, but that's when it is here in Canada. So I approached they were in the same class, and I approached their teacher and said, like, these two kids are doing these books. I can easily facilitate an interview. Stella can be at her house, Avery can be here, and sort of wrap this into part of their school project. And so, we did it, and the kids had a blast, and the teacher was going to show it in his classroom and so forth. And the morning I put it up, my sister called me and said, "Oh, you've got to call the media. You have got to call the local media about this." So I let a few people know. And for 3 days, I did nothing but manage the careers of these two children who went on every local broadcast here. They were on TV, they were on radio, they were in the paper. And then they did a little book tour of their school. They had a blast. So Stella finished her book, and she, I don't know what she did with it after. Avery is working on several different books. And of course it changes as she gets older, right? The type of story that she's attracted to changes, and the plots are getting a little more complicated and so forth. But she writes every day.
And is Avery your daughter? Or is that
Avery's my daughter, yeah.
Okay, and she still writes.
Avery's my daughter.
Yeah, okay, so everybody, I'm going to invite Avery onto my podcast and speak to her, and certainly get her, if she will, onto my Story Slingers course, because my daughter wrote her first novel when she was 10 or 11, and what struck me the most, it was about 30,000 words, but it was that intrinsic feeling of, I guess, success that no one can give you. When she typed or wrote the end, she was just full of that feeling. And I said to her, don't ever forget that, because no one can give that to you. No marks, no accolades, no anything. And I thought, we seem to have bypassed that a little bit, I guess, in the education system. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm trying to regain with my Story Slingers, to give kids back that feeling of success. Now, Avery and Stella will certainly know what I'm talking about. So I'm very keen to talk to them. And as you said, they can go on and write for life if they choose, or they can put it down and pick it up. That love of words that you instilled in your daughter from a very young age, I'm guessing that your daughter's been on the same trajectory that me and my daughter have been on. That love of words, she's watching you write, she's watching your business, and she's part of it.
Absolutely. And, she's very creative and artistic in dance and theater and music and writing. And my son is very musical. And it's interesting, here in Newfoundland a few years ago, it might have been 20 years ago now, we had our main economy here was the fishery, and we had a major collapse, and there was mass unemployment. And I grew up with the notion of, you get a job, whatever job you can get, and you're grateful for it, and you hang on to it for dear life. There was none of this, choose the career that feeds your soul. There's none of that nonsense, right? You just get a job and you go to work, and that's it, right? And so, what happens is then when you turn 40, you say, I don't like this job, and I'm going to give it up and write novels. So, which is quite shocking to my poor parents. I'm not sure if they're over it yet. But the benefit, for me, lots of benefits for me, but my kids are looking at me now, seeing that you can actually choose a career that you love, and you can earn a living doing it, which is really radical for Newfoundland. This is just so outside the box. It's not even funny. And my son is 17 now, so he just he's been working for a few years, but this summer was the first time he did full-time hours up at the restaurant. And I said to him one day, after he'd worked a 40-hour week, I said, so how does it feel to work full-time? And he said, Mom, it's all I do. And I said, well, now do you see why I keep telling you to pick a job that you like? Because you're going to be doing it a lot. And if it's something that you love, then you don't mind doing it. I wake up in the morning and I cannot wait to get to work. I come down the stairs and I'm thinking, I get to make up stories. This is a really cool job.
And for everyone who's listening, Valerie was in media and corporate communications. So I guess you were a bit of a high flyer. You had a very, time-consuming job, and it was high level. And you've given all that up, and you've now got your own, publishing company. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that? Because I can't pronounce the name of it, but the history behind it sounds absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, I used to work in corporate communications, and it was a pretty intense job, and it was definitely all-consuming. There were, a week would go by when I wouldn't see my kids awake, and I thought, okay, this is not cool. This is not what I had kids for. And so now I own my own publishing company. It's called Vocerius Press, and Vocerius is a word that nobody can ever pronounce, but that's okay. I'll do a video on it someday and explain to people what it means. But it's an Old English word that means writers. So that's why I chose Vocerius.
Yeah, and tell us a bit about what your publishing company does.
Well, I'm just publishing my own work.
Okay.
I do work with other local writers to sort of mentor them along, but that's not an official part of my company. So I'm working with my book says Valerie Francis, my kidlit, and my book says Robin St. Croix, which is my romantic suspense.
Yeah, and I don't know if anyone wants to rewind and listen to this. Then, can you rewind podcast? I'm not sure. In the olden days, we'd put the tape back. But Valerie made this wonderful statement that I'm very interested in. She comes down the stairs. She's very exciting because she's making a living doing the thing that she loves the most. Now, I do the thing that I love the most, and I don't make a cent, and that's why I go to school. So, Valerie, congratulations on making a living out of this gig. You'll have to tell me how you do it. Tell us all. We're waiting.
Well, with the kids, as a writer, you know that kids' books function in a totally different way than adult books. And so the business model for someone writing kidlit is very different than the business model for someone writing adult books. And I started out with kidlit, and that's my heart is definitely in anything fantasy. And the story that came out happened to be a kid's story, so that's how I came up with that. But for me, I think I was going to say the trick. I don't think it's a trick. The strategy, the thing that works, is connecting with your readers. Because publishing is a word-of-mouth industry. People are far more likely to read a book that has been recommended to them by someone that they know. And they're far more likely to read your book if they know you and if they get to know you. So for my kidlit, I do, for the past year and a half, I've done an awful lot of school visits. And I just get a kick out of them. I love classroom visits because they're so high energy. And I'm an extrovert. So for me to sit in my office by myself all day is really challenging. So I just love any opportunity to go out and talk to the kids, talk to my readers, and, just talk to them about, not only my story, but the types of books that they love. And we do readings together, and I get them to act stuff out, and I get them to do the voices, and it comes alive. And they're really shocked that I know who Rick Riordan is, or I know who some of the other authors are, because their parents aren't necessarily into it. Their teachers might very well know, but hasn't read the books. And they get a kick out of talking about stories. They really like it. So for me, for my kidlit, it's the in-person visits where I make, 90% of my income. For the adult books, it's the online stuff where I'll make 90% of my income. Now, that said, I've got a workshop coming up next weekend for the adult writing. So I'll be selling books there as well.
Okay, so first of all, I didn't think that you got paid that well for author visits, but I guess that you do because we have authors coming through the schools all the time. So that is obviously something that anyone who writes kids books might like to think about. And I think you can put yourself on a list that people can book you through. The schools go through the list and choose what authors they want. Is that correct?
Well, it is correct. I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'll probably get hammered by a bunch of other kidlit authors for saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway because it's what I'm doing. I don't charge anything for my school visits, not a penny, because schools don't have any money, especially here locally. In fact, just this spring, our education system went through a huge budget exercise, and the schools are scrambling. So what I say to them is, here's who I am, here's what I'm about, here's what I'd like to do. I don't charge for the classroom visit, but if it's okay with you, I'll bring in order forms and hand them out to the children. And so the teacher facilitates that for me. And it's a bit of work. But the teachers have been, and the principals and the school administration have always been so supportive. It's been a joy to work with them. And, there's a list. I didn't even bother getting on that because I didn't know anyone in that system. So I just started with my kids' school, the elementary school that my kids went to. And I sat down with the principal and I said, so how does this work? He said, oh, yeah, come on in. We'll help you out. And then, well, the teachers are friends. So one teacher told another teacher who told another teacher and suddenly I was getting calls. So I didn't really have to do too much proactive work. And in fact, I've already had a couple of calls so far for this year. And I've had to put off the visits until after Christmas because I have my romantic suspense launching. So that's kind of taking up my fall. So, word of mouth in this business, I think is golden. It's the thing that will make you or break you. I'm convinced of that.
Yeah, and it's interesting chatting to you. Valerie is just so enthusiastic here, and she smiles, and she's bright, and she's vivacious, and I can see why the kids would be just drawn to you. And I'm guessing a lot of them would buy your books because they know you and they love taking ownership. You're theirs.
Yeah, I get about a 75% pickup rate when I go into a classroom. And the books are available locally here in our bookstore. And I do let them know that, but I offer a little bit of a discount because, of course, I can't set the price at the bookstore. I suggested a price at the bookstore, and they put it much higher. So when I go into a classroom, that's another little thank you that I give the kids who are there. And so I get a lot of pickup rate for the kids who are in my classroom. And then they tell their friends, when their friends see them reading a book, they're like, oh, I met the author. And, I was at the supermarket the other day and this little child was looking at me. And so I smiled and she came up and said, you were in my classroom last year. So, which was really fun, Yeah. And I was at one of the local bookstores that I haven't really worked much with. And the manager came over and she said, excuse me, are you an author? You write children's books, right? Why, yes, I do. And she said, well, if you're ever having an event or you'd like to partner with us on something, here's my card. Give us a call. I thought, wow, this is neat. Absolutely, I'll give you a call.
So this is how it works, everybody. You've just got to be vivacious, beautiful, energetic, and put yourself out there. So if you think people are going to come to you, they actually do, provided you put yourself in the position and set yourself up and you're professional and all the rest of it. So Valerie's making it sound very, very easy, but she's obviously very, very good at what she does. Now, there aren't a lot of Nature Night books.
Not yet. There are 2 out now. There are 8 more to come.
Wow. And how many of those are written?
The next 2 are in various stages of completion. I didn't put the brakes on it, but I put it aside a little bit to get the adult book out the door. So once the adult book is out the door, then I'll pick the kids' books back up again.
Yeah. So first question, how long have you been at this? How long have you been writing full time? How long have you had Bodacious Press set up? I didn't pronounce that correctly at all, did I?
Bodacious.
Bodacious. I thought there's no Dacian in it. Yeah, Bodacious, yeah.
works for me too. I published the first kids book in 2015. It took me about 4 years to write that, but I wasn't, I mean, I was still working then. Officially, I guess I'm in my second year of business now, full time. And yeah, so the two books came out. One came out in April 2015, and the other one October 2015. And now we're into the fall of 2016, and my adult books are coming out.
Yeah. So it's a really amazing journey that you're describing here to us, Valerie, and you make it sound so very, very simple. For everybody who's sitting there as amazed as I am, I'm going to take you now on another journey that is going to be equally as fascinating. Would you like to tell us about what's happening in the next little while with the release of your romantic suspense books under the name of, I don't know where you get these names, child, Robin St. Cross?
Robin St. Croix.
Robin St. Croix. I knew I was going to get it wrong. Okay, tell us all about it.
Yeah, it's a total departure from the kids' books, and the reason I used a pen name is to distinguish these adult books from the kid books. So I like to say I write for the kids and their moms, so that the mom knows what the kid has and doesn't, inadvertently buy the wrong book. I started writing the romance almost on a dare from a friend of mine who's a romance writer. And I was saying to her, I can't find a good romance that I'm really getting into. And she said, well, then go write it. I thought, okay. And, I thought, I don't know if I can do this. And then one day, this line came to my head. What would you do if you knew you wouldn't get caught? And I thought, I can do something with that. Now, there's a line I can do something with. So I wrote it with myself and a lot of my friends in mind who are very busy women. They've got careers, they've got kids, and they might be looking after aging parents. They're volunteers. They're in relationships. They're trying to keep going. Their time is at a premium. And they come home Friday night tired. And even though they might love books and they really want to escape, the whole idea of picking up a Diana Gabaldon book just freaks them out because it's so thick. So I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll write a book, but I will publish it in parts. So Masquerade is Robin St. Croix's first book, and it is a novel in 12 parts. And the premise is that these two characters, Isla and Colin, go to a masquerade ball. And they're strangers and they meet and they're given an opportunity to take part in a game whereby they would meet once a month for a year and have these little secret rendezvous. And they have to follow 3 rules. They cannot reveal their identities. They can only meet at prearranged times and places. And they cannot fall in love. So, of course, that's going to be ripe for some twists and turns in there. And so the Masquerade is told in 12 parts. Each part is a month of the year. So it starts in October with the Masquerade Ball. Part 2 will be November. Part 3 is December, and so on. And the first part comes out tomorrow, in fact. I'm getting ready to upload it when we finish this conversation.
And I have just immediately made a decision. Now I've got 3 other beautiful interviews. I've just come up a series of 5 podcasts on business, and I thought, what am I going to follow that up with? So I've got 3 other interviews that I've completed this week, but I am going to put this one up simply because I'm just reading on your website about this series of Masquerade, and I want to download and buy it myself, and I thought this will be a great one. I love that idea. What would you do if you didn't think you were going to get caught? I could think of a dozen things off the top of my head, and most of them involve ex-husbands, actually. Okay, so tell us.
I love it.
Tell us about tomorrow. That's everybody. This is how you launch your book, and if anyone can do it, it's going to be Valerie because her background is in media and communications. If you've listened to her like I have for the last half hour, you've got no doubt that this is going to be a doozy. Tell us what's going to happen.
I'm going to start this as, again, using word of mouth as my premise. I started work on the launch and the public relations side of it back in April, and we're now in September. And I went to a business workshop back in April, And there were 75 people there. And I asked every one of them if they would help me with my launch. And 73 of them said yes. Two of them were religious leaders and didn't really like the idea of a romantic suspense, which is fine, which is absolutely fine. I didn't realize that that was their business when I asked them. Anyway, we had a good chuckle over it. Um, so these 75 people is who I started with. They all signed up to my mailing list, but they signed up with the understanding and with the agreement that when this book comes out, they will share it with their network, and they will ask their network to share it with their network. So I'm going to be 3 tiers deep on this. And so that was my original 75 back in April. Since then, I have been talking to people and telling them about the story, just like I did with you just now, and asking them the same thing. Would they help me spread the word? So I've been gathering these email addresses, and people have been going on and signing up. And you can go to robinstcroix.com and sign up to the mailing list. And all of these people have said that, yes, they want to read the book, but yes, they also want to help me get the word out. So that's the strategy I'm doing. I mean, I hear a lot about Facebook ads, and I'm not against Facebook ads. I'm just not ready for them. To make money going that route, you need a lot of money. And I'm not yet at the stage where I'm prepared to throw that kind of money at ads. I firmly believe that word of mouth is the way to go. And at least your very first tier of marketing would be, talking to as many people as you can and asking for their help. Not everyone is going to want to help you, but boy, quite a few do. Quite a few people look at what I'm doing and say, oh, I wish I could just, give up this job that I don't like and go do the thing that I'm passionate about. And because I really wish I could do that myself, I'm going to help you because you're doing that. And I just did a video, a book trailer, 30-second book trailer, just quietly put it up on my Facebook page, my personal Facebook page, my Robinson Croix author page. I didn't put it on my Valerie Francis author page because that's where the kids are. And, I was getting a view about every 15 seconds. And it was cool, but it was also a little bit scary that all of a sudden all these people were watching the trailer that I put together. And I've been getting personal messages and direct messages and texts from these people who know me, because they genuinely are my Facebook friends. And they're friends, they're not just random people, saying, holy cow, where do I get this book and what can I do to help you? So that's how I'm launching this book tomorrow. It's a soft, quiet launch initially out of the gate, focusing on word of mouth. But the beauty here, from a business perspective, the beauty here is that I have 12 books to publish, and I'm publishing a book every second week. So I'll be publishing for about 6 months. So I don't think, to have a big hoopla this weekend. I can use the next few months to start building momentum gradually, to give this word of mouth time to get going. Like I said, there's a book expo I'm going to next weekend, which is all local romance writers. So I'm giving a workshop there and I'm doing a reading. So that'll be more people. There's about 150 people coming to that. I will be saying to all of those 150 people, would you like to help me spread the word? And that's how I'm going. And when Christmas comes up here, people will be socializing and they'll be saying, oh, I'm reading this book now by Robin St. Croix. You've just got to go check it out. So that's my whole strategy for now.
Now, Val has been very kindly talking to us about that. And if everybody's not as excited as me by now, you should be. And I was pretty excited when I found that Val wrote Kidlit and that she had a daughter who wrote a novel. And I thought, that's our interview for today. But I'm going to scrap all that now because I'm now doubly excited about what you're doing, Val, and the amazing way of getting word out. While Val was talking, I've just signed up to her newsletter on Valerie, what was it, Robin St. Croix? Yeah, and I
robinsoncroix.com.
pronounced it correctly. So I've signed up. I'm officially part of the launch team. I've just spread the word on Facebook that I'm part of the launch team now. I've just got an email back that has a wonderful little review on it, and I just want to read this to you. It says, "You'll be hooked from the opening scene. Masquerade is an edge of your seat suspense that, but from the first word, will have you rooting for a taboo love affair. Robin St. Croix has woven a captivating tale of steamy intrigue that will leave you breathless and wanting more." Now that's what I call romance. Now we're only going to get a section every 2 weeks. Now I presume I'll get something that I'll buy every 2 weeks. How will that work?
Yeah, so part one will be available as of tomorrow, whenever Amazon gets it up
Yeah.
there.
And I'll
I'll
get
be
an
letting
email, will
everyone
I?
know that's there.
Yep.
You'll get an email. Yep, you'll get an email that it's available with the links as to where to get it. Now, for those who finish part one and would like part two, if they're not already on my mailing list, they can sign up to my mailing list and get part two. Everyone on the mailing list will get part two for free. So you can let them know that.
So we
And
buy
then,
we buy part one. So tomorrow I'm going to buy part one.
yeah, part one will be free for September.
Oh, so I'm going to get part one free as well.
Yep. And for September. And then part two, you can also get free by signing up to robinsoncroix.com. And that'll be a download. You'll get an email with how to download it and all the instructions, what to do. And then from part three onward, you can just go to the retailer of your choice and buy it. But at the end of each book, you'll have the option to go and pre-order the next book so that it'll just arrive on your e-reader when it's published.
So tell me you're using BookFunnel. You're going to make it easy for me, aren't you?
Oh, yes. It'll be very easy.
So
Yep,
is it BookFunnel
absolutely.
where it just turns up?
No, I don't. I haven't used BookFunnel yet. Now, I was going to look into that this evening because on the Valerie Francis site, I had that done by a designer who has an even easier system. So I was going to look at what he did on the Valerie Francis site and just copy it over. And if that doesn't work tonight, I'll go to BookFunnel. But not to worry, it will be very, very simple.
So it's just going to turn up in my Kindle. I'm a simple girl, and technology blows me away. So it just has to turn up and has to sit there so I can just press go and read. And I know in the past people have sent me PDFs that I have to download and transfer over and this, that, and the other. And in the end, I just go, I may have just spent $20 on you, mate, but I can't be bothered anymore. and there are a few nightmares like that out there on the internet. You get these free 27 books if you give me a review. And then when you try to open the 27 books, you go, forget it. It's too hard.
It's too hard.
Yeah.
Well, Kindle is really helping people do that because you can just email it to yourself and it pops up on your device. For some of the other devices, it's a little more challenging. That's where BookFunnel, a lot of people like BookFunnel because it gives you step-by-step instructions as to how to do that. Now, I already had that set up on my Valerie Francis site long before I ever heard of BookFunnel. Mm-hmm. And it's the same idea, but it actually has less steps than BookFunnel. Oh. So that's why I'm going to go there and see if I can just use that and move it over to the Robin St. Croix. But it's going to be so easy. It's not even going to be funny. Yeah. Now, but that's why I want to make. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, how is this for? I guess an exciting interview and an exciting strategy. I'm just blown away. Word of mouth, spreading the word, 3 tiers down. You've got me punching buttons all over the place here. Now it says here on the website 1 a week.
Yeah, I was going to do 1 a week. I just changed that actually. So I was moving all over the place on the strategy. First it was going to be 1 a month. So when I originally set this up ages ago, because so the first book takes place in October, I would publish that in October. Book 2 is in November, I'd publish that in November. I said, holy Hannah, that's going to drag out for a year. I just can't be at it. So then I went to 1 a week. I said, that's almost too quick for me to handle because as an independent author, I'm doing it all. I'm also a single mom, so I'm doing all that. I said, that's going to be too much to handle. So just last week, I was talking to my mastermind group and I was sort of bouncing ideas off with them. I said, okay, what do you think about every other week? And they said, as long as you're consistent with your publishing. So if you start with every week, you got to keep going every week or you're just going to make people angry, which is true. But if you're going to do every other week, just go with every other week. So every other week is a pace that I can handle. It's also, from a marketing point of view, the added benefit that I didn't really realize until later is that it gives my readers more chance to read it, especially as we move up into Christmas, because these are already busy people who are only getting busier this fall. Fall here, spring for you, but fall for me. So it gives them more time to read the books and chat with their friends. And it gives me more time to implement more marketing strategies. Because I don't know how you feel when you get into this, but for me, the most challenging part of this job is the overwhelm. Because first you got to figure out how to write a book. And that's a bit of work, right? And it doesn't happen overnight. And then you just conquer how to write a book, and then you got to figure out how to market it, and then you got to figure out how to set up a business, and then you got to deal with accountants and incorporating and all. It's like my brain. So I was getting really overwhelmed with all the different marketing options, and I heard an interview with Bella Andre, and I think it might have been on Mark Dawson's podcast. I can't remember, but I think that's where I heard it. And like for a while, I stopped reading articles. I stopped listening to podcasts like for about 2 weeks because I was on overload. And this interview with Bella Andre was one of the first ones I listened to when I started to pick it back up. And she said, for our writers out there who are still in the first few years of their career, you can totally build your career on word of mouth. That's what I did. And I thought, well, heck, if it works for Bella Andre, it'll work for me. I mean, she's doing all right. And for me, I just, I love any excuse to go out and meet people is perfect. So I thought, great. I get to talk to people. And as you can tell, I like to talk. I've never been accused of being, a wallflower. So I thought, well, this is great. I'll just focus on that as a strategy. And then I'll start building one block at a time.
It's amazing. I'm sitting here just totally gobsmacked that this strategy has built like, I'm guessing it's built like Topsy. It sounds like it's built like Topsy, but it's also very targeted and very deliberate and has come together amazingly well. So it hasn't come together like Topsy at all, has it? You have deliberately set out to achieve this. When have you written and completed? Have you completed the whole 12 masquerades?
The 6 are completely done and in the can. 6 are drafted, but they need a little more massaging yet. I can't call them done yet. They need a little more massaging. So everything between now and the end of this year is done. And so while I do that now, my editor is working on giving her time to do her work. And then she'll send them back to me, so I'll have the other 6 ready to go. But I know what's going to happen, and it's drafted. So now I'm just in the massaging stage of it. And the other thing that I did that I forgot to mention is that I sort of gathered a few beta readers as I was going along, because this is the first romance I've written. And, I'm a big fantasy reader. So when I was writing fantasy, I was on more sure footing. As a romance reader, I'm not as avid as some of my friends. So I would go to them and say, okay, does this work? Does this work? Does this, so I spoke to a few romance writers, but then I just went out to people who I knew were my target audience, to my girlfriends, and said, can you just read this and tell me if you're hooked? If you're not, that's cool. Tell me where you lost interest. If you are, great. So there's one friend in particular, Melanie, and she is completely my target audience, super busy, big fancy job, 3-year-old twins. She is so busy. And she's also a writer. So I knew Melanie would give me really constructive feedback because she knows what I'm trying to do with this. And she said, okay, send me the first 3 parts, which is my beginning hook, right? I don't know if do you follow Story Grid?
No.
At all? Sean
No.
Coyne's Story Grid? So the first 3 parts are the beginning hook. So by the time you get to the end of part 3, you're all in, okay? The characters are all in, the reader is all in, off we go. So I sent that to Melanie and I said, what I need to know is, are you hooked at the opening? Are you hooked at the end of each of these parts? And when you get to the end of part 3, do you want to keep reading? Because you can get part 1 for free. You can get part 2 for free. People are going to pay for part 3. Would they want to keep paying for more parts? She said, send it to me. I don't know when I can get to it, but send it to me. Great. Well, I got an email the next morning. And she had sat down and she said to her husband, I know Valerie's, wondering about this. I just want to have a quick look. And so I can tell her something quickly. And she sat up and read it the whole night. She could not put it down. And her husband woke up in the middle of the night at one point and said, what are you doing? She said, I can't put Valerie's book down. I got to keep going. I got to keep going. So I thought, great, perfect. If I can hook her when she was overtired to start, and with all these other things that she has to do, and if I can keep her up all night reading, I'm on the right track. So I pulled a few people like this out at the beginning. Another one of my girlfriends I was talking to last night, she's also a single mom, also runs her own business, busy gal, very busy gal. And on Friday night, she's tired. She's just done. And I gave her a little bit last night. She came over to the house for a visit. And I said, just let me know what you think of this. And I walked out of the room to go and deal with the kids. And I came back and she was totally into it, And she said, oh, and this was a draft. I said, stop reading because it's a draft. like read the good copy, right? Because you're looking at things with typos in it. And so I picked a few people like that who were my target audience. I hooked them, and they are voluntarily, these are people I didn't even say, can you help me share? They're just doing it. They're telling people about it. And one of the people that review that you read is by a local author, Victoria Barber. She's a USA Today bestselling author. And she knows more about the story than anybody because I wanted her to give me a review. And I hooked her from the beginning, right from the beginning. So that's why she gave me this lovely review. So, Tim Grohl talks about influencers. I was kind of doing that before I knew that, this was a strategy. I was just out there chatting with people and letting them know what I'm doing and saying, hey, can you help me?
Yeah. And look, I think part of the reason I'm so very excited is you have forged your own way. You've taken bits of what everybody else has done. You've done courses here, you've talked to people there, and then you've put all this together and no one else has done it. So at the end of it, I guess you can go and sell it to everybody else and say, hey, this works, why don't you do this? And by the way, give me a couple of $100. I can't for the life of me see why you're not going to just succeed with this. How long will each section be? Like I get section 1 tomorrow, I'm guessing. Or today, I don't know, time-wise it gets a bit muddly. How long is section 1 going to be?
It's the length of a glass of wine. That's what I tell people. You can sit down. You can.
I'm a single mother. I've got 2 businesses. I know what it's like.
I tell people it'll take between 20 and 30 minutes to read each part, depending on how fast you read. So I like to say it's the length of a glass of wine, or a commute home in the evening, or if you're at the dentist office waiting to be called. It's something that's you can read on your phone, so you don't have to have your e-reader with you. You can just have it on your phone. And for anyone who doesn't have a Kindle app or a Kobo app on their phone, you go get them. They're free. They're awesome. And so they're bite-sized pieces. So when you get to the end, like it's not overwhelming. And the people who have read it, one of the things that I wanted to do was make this a fast read, not a simple read. Because, Melanie, I'm going to quote Melanie, because if I say it, it sounds, really egotistical. But Melanie, my friend I was just telling you about, described it as a smart romance. So most romance novels are a pretty straight line between boy meets girl to boy marries girl. I have 5 plot lines going. So, there's a bit of intricacy happening. So you got to be paying attention. So I wanted each part to read quickly. Not simply, but read quickly. And so the pace is fairly fast. So each chapter is fairly short. They're potato chip length, as Sean Coyne says, which I just love that analogy because I totally understand it. Just one more, you think, just one more. And but it's long enough that if you sit down on a Friday night and you're tired and you put your feet up and you pour yourself a glass of wine, by the time you're finished the wine, you'll be finished the part. And you don't have to be stressed out that it's a big honking book that you got to read because you don't have any more to read for another 2 weeks. So that's the other reason I decided to make it every 2 weeks is that my audience are really busy. And if they don't have time to catch up every week, then they're going to start to feel like they're behind and it's going to start to feel like one other thing that they've got to do. Whereas if it's every other week, it's totally manageable.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I'll let you know how I go on that because my instinctive is it's only 20 minutes. I drink a glass of wine every Friday night. And I thought, well, maybe I want it every week. So I'll let you know because you'll certainly get feedback on that. And this is your first, I guess, first novel or first, it's like a serial, isn't it? That's like how they used to serialize it in the olden days. Are you going to release it all as one at the end of the 12 episodes?
I will. So right now it's all digital because there's no point in having a print version of that. It would just be, you know, ridiculous. So it's all going to be digital for now. And then when all of them are out, then I'll have them in various box set options for people. They can buy all 12 if they want. And then I will also have a print version. So the print version will be the whole thing together.
Yeah. So how many pages would that be? That'll be full length novel easily, won't it?
Oh, it'll be longer than a full length novel. It'll be about around 120,000 words, and the average novel is about 80,000. So when you take it in one chunk, it's going to look big, which is why I've sort of broken it down.
All right. So if this is successful, and let's face it, we have just had the most amazing lesson in launching a series of books that we didn't expect, but I'll be putting a blog post out about if I can remember half of what Valerie's told me. Otherwise, I might invite her on to write the blog post. I'd like some pictures, please, so that we can actually have some pics up and have a few surprises. I guess that'll be after tomorrow because there's no pictures on your site. So I'm assuming you want that to be a surprise. That's part of the strategy.
Yeah, I put that site up quickly when we had a lot of local interest here from media in Valentine's. So that site went up in an afternoon. And since then, I've been so busy writing. And, it's only now that people outside my immediate circle are sort of cottoning on to what I'm doing and are looking at the site. And I'm thinking, okay, I got to get that sharpened up now for tomorrow.
And she's taken an hour out to talk to me. She's got all this happening. The place has gone crazy. And I'm sitting here just chatting to her. She's really going to be up to midnight tonight doing all this, everybody. It's so exciting. I'm going to go away and write about it. Shoot me a picture, Valerie, so that I can get it up on my website. I can post it today or tomorrow.
Do you want the picture of the book cover?
Yep. Or how about...
I can send
Yeah, send me that, and as soon as I get my little episode, I'll read it, then I'll write about it. Now, you started out 6 months ago, you started in April, it's now September, you're releasing the first, you've got 6 written, you've got 6 almost written. I am going to strongly suggest that you might like to have your next series ready to go by the time you finish this series. You've got a lot of work to do, child.
I certainly do. But you know what? This is so much fun, it doesn't feel like work at all. It really doesn't. In terms of pure hours, I punch in way more hours now than I did, with the real job, with the day job. But they just fly. They just fly by. The other day, my daughter came down. She's 13 now, and she said, "Mom, I'm just saying good night." And I said, "Good night? Well, we haven't had supper yet. What do you mean good night?" But the kids are old enough now. They just cooked supper for themselves. They knew I was down here getting close to lunch, and that's how it goes. And when you're really passionate about what you're doing, the energy just appears somehow, miraculously.
I'm watching this lady here, and she reminds me very much of another lady I had on by the name of Sherry McCarthy. These guys are just vibrant and lots of energy, and we've been talking for nearly an hour, and I'm just starting to wake up. And I'm going, oh, I'm human at last, and only still got a skerrick of the energy that Valerie is showing right now. Okay, just a couple of questions to wind up because, as usual, I've promised to keep my podcast episodes down to 30 to 40 minutes. We're now on an hour. But come on, everybody, we didn't expect this, did we? We did not expect to have such a lesson thrown at us at this ungodly hour of the morning. Valerie, you are an amazing woman. How many people do you think you'd have on your mailing list now?
Oh, I haven't checked in a while, but I got a couple of hundred.
Yeah.
But I haven't been watching the numbers because that to me has been beside the point. So, for someone who's an unknown author, um, because Robin St. Croix has not been released to the world yet, so it's just my immediate circle and the people I have been meeting, uh, and I really have no platform as a romance writer. To have a couple of hundred people on the list to start out, I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah, and as you said, it goes that 3 tiers deep. They're going to tell someone who's going to tell someone. Now, you said you've found some of these people at conferences, so you obviously attend a lot of conferences. I notice, and this is way back when I was going to have a boring, straightforward chat with you today. I noticed that you were a member of the Alliance of Independent Authors, Scribby, and the Writers Alliance of Newfoundland and Labrador. So you're obviously a big person on professional organisations and networking. To finish off, you would say that is a way for all of us to go?
I actually find more networking opportunities in non-writing related organizations, with the exception of Alley. I just think they're fantastic, and there's so much information there. I've only just scratched the surface. But there's a group we have locally. It's called NLO, Newfoundland and Labrador Organization of Women Entrepreneurs. So for Robin St. Croix, that's a whole group of my readers right there. But they're business people who understand that I have a business. So when I go to them and say, look, can you help me spread the word? They go, absolutely. I totally know what you're doing. I totally get that this is marketing. And they're more than happy because they understand what I'm doing. And I find that as writers, we tend to be so shy about promoting ourselves or asking for help, and a lot of writers are introverts. I'm not, but a lot of writers are introverts, and it's hard to walk up to someone you've never met and say, hi, I'm selling a book. Do you want to buy it? Right? So, but when you walk into a group of business people who are all creating something and trying to sell it, you start with a common level of understanding. And, in exchange, it's not just them giving to me. In exchange, I'm helping them however I can. And I wondered, what do I have to bring to this table? Because, I'm a writer, but I'm also have an expertise in PR. A lot of business people, like when I went to this workshop in April, if I wanted to be a ghostwriter, I could have had enough work for 2 or 3 years. Because what a lot of business people are doing now are writing books in their area of expertise and using them as business cards. They have no intention of going to market with these books, not initially anyway, but their clients, let's say if they're an investment guy, their clients are going to hang on to that book, even if it's a short book, more faster than they're going to hang on to a business card or a pamphlet. So they're really interested in writing, and they're really interested in talking to me about being an indie author as a business. I mean, that's really cool. They just think this is the coolest thing ever. And it is the coolest thing ever. So, I don't mind talking to them at all. But I find, and being an extrovert, I look for these excuses to go out and talk to people. Because if I had to sit by myself in a room day in and day out, I'd go nuts. I wouldn't be able to cope at all. So yeah, I just love doing that stuff.
Yeah, and I can see that as well. I think burying you away in the dark would be a very, very sad day indeed. But what you've done for me in the last 2 minutes is you've actually clarified what my business is. I've called myself Writer on the Road, and there's been a bit of confusion about who is my market. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to bridge that gap between author, writer and business, because I've had some guests on who have talked about content marketing and how your brand is your story and your book is your business card. So I'm going to a couple of conferences, podcasting conferences, and yes, I'm an author, but I want to help people in business tell their story. And I've known what I've been trying to do, but I don't think I've articulated it well enough. So I might have to bring you on board to sort out my brand, because I think that author entrepreneur entrepreneur or that authorpreneur, which is, I think I first heard the word with Joanna Penn, and I love that word. I think we are business people, we are authors, we are independent authors, and we do have to have a bit of a business brain, although I've got to tell you that yours is an amazing business brain. And I look forward to many more series coming from you. Okay, well, I'm going to spread the word for you as much as I can. If anyone listens to me, my 2 daughters and cats, as we've been talking, Valerie's had cats running around her room, across bookshelves and all the rest of it, and I've got cats climbing under my feet. At least they haven't broken into a fight, which sometimes happens, so that's pretty good. So Valerie's a cat lady, she's a word lady, she's got a daughter who writes novels. She is exactly the same as me, except she's making money and I'm not. But my day will come. Yeah, I think because she does the work and I just talk about it. I just talk to other people who are doing it. All right, Valerie, if you'd like to finish off with one last piece of excitement about your series that's coming out, how about you share with us what's happening tomorrow, and then I'll let you go.
Tomorrow, part 1 of Masquerade will be live on Amazon, iBooks, Kobo, and Nook. And if you go to robinstcroy.com, you can sign up on the website, and you'll get part 2 for free. Part 1 will be free for September. And get reading and get sharing.
Yeah. What am I paying for?
Sending out my trailer as well.
And you're selling out of your trailer?
No, I will be sending people a copy of my book trailer that you saw.
Oh, okay.
30-second clip that's I got nearly 1,000 views already in just a couple of, I don't know, 2 days or something.
Yeah, so this woman, she's only got 200 people on her mailing list, but she's actually got 4,000 friends. And it's spreading very quickly, and I can see, well, I think you've done an amazing lead up to this launch tomorrow. Now, being in Australia, I should actually have it now.
Well, oh yeah, you should. It's not uploaded yet because it's still Saturday my time.
Oh, there's no advantage.
I keep forgetting about this. So I will be sure to let you know exactly when it's live. So it might even be, depending on how quick Amazon is, it might even be Monday before you get it. I will make sure that you know when it's there.
All right. Well, send me a picture. I'll put a picture up on the website for us. I'm sure it'll be plastered all over your Facebook and my Facebook and all your 4,000 friends' Facebook. Congratulations, Valerie. I think it's an amazing idea. I wish you every success. You've been certainly generous with your advice with us today. We're all going to go out and write series now, except we haven't got the energy that you've got. You're amazing. All right. It's been fantastic talking to you. Best of luck with the launch tomorrow. And let's get you back on board at the end of the series and we can talk about how it all went.
Perfect. Sounds good to me.
Okay. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.